Compulsive shopping is on the rise, but is it a real addiction? We unpack the science, the symptoms, and the controversy behind this misunderstood disorder. More people are asking, is shopping addiction a real mental health disorder or just bad habits with a credit card? Researchers still cannot agree on the answer, and that disagreement has big consequences. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is shopping addiction? Well, clinically, it's often called a compulsive buying disorder. It's not about the occasional online splurge or a Boxing Day blowout. We're talking about repeated, irresistible urges to shop that cause distress, disrupt daily life, and often spirals into debt, shame, and broken relationships. Back in the early 1900s, German psychiatrists Kraepelin and Bleuler described this as oniomania, a form of impulsive insanity. They grouped it with kleptomania and pyromania, so this idea has been around for a long time, but it is struggling to find a place in modern psychiatry. So is shopping addiction officially recognized? It is not in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which guides psychiatric diagnoses in the USA and also in much of the rest of the world. The American Psychiatric Association says there's not enough consistent research to support it. However, the World Health Organization's ICD-11 takes a slightly different stance. It includes compulsive buying shopping disorder under the category of other specified impulse control disorders. That is a step forward, but still is not full recognition as a standalone disorder. This matters because classification affects diagnosis, insurance coverage, and also treatment pathways. So why the hesitation? Some experts argue the term shopping addiction medicalizes a moral or lifestyle problem. Is it really a disorder, or is it just irresponsible spending? Others say the problem is very real but hasn't been studied enough, or that it overlaps with other diagnoses like obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, or mood disorders. That overlap makes it hard to isolate shopping addiction as its own thing. And there's concern about opening the floodgates. If shopping counts, then what about gaming? What about social media? What about binge watching TV? Where do we draw the line between addictive and excessive? Psychiatrists often use criteria proposed by McElroy and colleagues. You'll hear a lot of familiar features: intrusive thoughts, irresistible urges, repeated purchases beyond budget or need, and significant distress. Importantly, it cannot be explained by another mental health condition like mania. There are also screening tools like the Compulsive Buying Scale and the Bergen Shopping Addiction Scale. These look at things like craving, mood changes, guilt, and loss of control, very similar to how we screen for gambling or substance use disorders. So what does the data say? How common is it? Estimates vary depending on how you measure it. Meta-analyses suggest around 5% of the general population may meet the criteria for shopping addiction. Among university students and regular shoppers, the rates go up to 8% or even 16%. Most studies show a strong gender imbalance. Around 80 to 90% of identified compulsive shoppers are women. Some researchers think that that's a real difference. Others argue that men underreport or express it differently, like calling it collecting instead of shopping. The typical age of onset is the late teens or early 20s. That's often when people gain financial independence and get access to credit for the first time. What does it actually look like then in real life? Well, the cycle often follows 4 stages: anticipation, preparation, shopping, and spending. There's a buildup of tension followed by a release or high when the purchase happens. But that relief is short-lived. What follows is guilt, regret, and sometimes a need to hide the purchases from family or partners. Over time, the spending gets riskier. People may go into debt, borrow from friends, or lie to cover up their behavior. Some even resort to crimes like theft or fraud. Just like with other addictions, there's often a clear impact on mental health, relationships, and work life. And yet, it's still not in the DSM. So, what now? More researchers are calling for official recognition, especially as online shopping makes it easier to hide the behavior and harder to stop. Instant gratification, targeted marketing, and 24/7 access all feed the cycle. Including shopping addiction in diagnostic manuals could help people get proper treatment and reduce stigma, but until then, it's often overlooked or misdiagnosed. So here's the real question. If a repeated behavior causes distress, is difficult to control, and causes harm, does it really matter whether it's in a DSM manual? That's all for today, folks. I'm Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and this has been Cracking Addiction.